this question to be quite powerful.
Mm. Thanks, Marina. Hey, Teresa.
Hi, my name is Teresa. My true self used to be, and still is to some extent, a very stressed person. I have a high stress job. But this will be my fourth class that I've taken with Lori. The first one was mindfulness-based stress reduction, and then this course twice before. I'm increasingly learning that my true self is my higher self is someone who's kind of standing back and observing that high stress person, and not as caught up in it. But I just find every time I take this course, I learn more, and it just helps me keep up the practices. And so I'm here again.
Welcome. Glad you're here. Okay, well, thanks everyone. I just wanted to see and check and see if there was a message from Jeff or something, but I don't see anything. So I guess we'll just venture on. But yeah, this question of who am I is really I find it quite a, there's no answer, right? There's no answer, no absolute answer anyway. And but asking the question, I find, is very sometimes it produces a shift, just a shift in perception, a shift in consciousness. And of course, this book and the practice is all about this, noticing, like, what is my experience and who's experiencing it. So anyway, we'll look at it from, as Mickey says in the introduction, we'll look at it from many different perspectives, with a view basically to, freeing ourselves from, I'll use the term lower self, right, from our fears and our cravings, our habits of mind that that cause us all sorts of stress and discomfort, and that limit us, that keep us in this kind of, in our comfort zone, if you will. So every class we're going to start with a meditation, about 15 minutes or so. So we're going to do a meditation in a moment. And then the structure of the class generally is, there'll be an opportunity to discuss, how your practice, and then like how the home practice has been going. So we won't do that this week. And then look at the chapters for the week, and have discussions around those. There'll be some breakout groups where we can discuss different things, and we'll go over the home practice. And then sometimes there'll be exercises or different things that we'll do in class. So I'll talk a bit more about that after the meditation. So for now, I'll just mute everyone. And everyone here has some meditation experience, so we'll just go right into it. So finding yourself a nice, comfortable position where you can be relaxed and yet alert. And letting go of what is past. Letting go of what may come. And letting go of what is happening right now. not trying to figure anything out, not trying to make anything happen. Just relaxing right now and resting in present moment experience. And we'll begin with one sound of the bell. So allowing the attention to sink deeply into the body, noticing sensation in the body. And allowing whatever's there to be there. So there may be pleasant sensations, unpleasant sensations, maybe neutral sensations, and maybe areas where there's no sensation. And just noticing that, not doing anything to try and change it. And noticing any resistance to what's happening right now in your experience. Any bracing in the body. Any mental resistance, any wanting things to be different than they are. And when you notice that resistance, allowing yourself to relax and drop the resistance. It may or may not drop. It may or may not relax. Again, we let go of any wanting things to be different or trying to make anything happen. It's more about just relaxing and letting go of the will, of the exertion of will. So it's more of a not doing than a doing. And noticing how the body moves with the breath. Being aware of when you're breathing in and when you're breathing out. And following the breath all the way through the sensations of breathing, all the way through the in-breath from the start, all the way through to the end of the in-breath, and then the start of the out-breath, all the way through to the end of the out-breath. Not trying to control the breath, but allowing it to be natural. Doesn't matter if it's slow or quick, deep or shallow. Doesn't matter if it's rhythmic or not. Just noticing and allowing. Whenever you notice resistance or bracing, allowing yourself to relax. Of course, with each out breath, our body naturally relaxes. And whenever you notice that the attention has wandered from the body breathing, that's no problem. When you notice that, you've gone from forgetfulness to awareness. I know my attention has wandered. So that's a moment to celebrate. And then gently bring the attention back to the body breathing. Doing that over and over again. Of course, when we're in forgetfulness, when we're just caught in our thoughts, we have no ability to do anything. We're on autopilot. So when that awareness comes back, that's a gift. That's grace. There's no way to make yourself do that. So celebrate that moment. And then go back to your breath, back to your body. And just riding the waves of the breath. There's really nothing to do. And as you're observing the body breathing, you may notice that sense of being the observer, of being the witness, of being the one who notices. So we're aware of our body breathing. And we're also aware that we're aware. And now we're going to ask ourselves a question. And we're just asking the question. We're not trying to answer it. We're just going to ask the question in our minds and see what happens. And just allow whatever happens to happen, or maybe nothing will happen. Doesn't matter. But we're not trying to answer the question. We're not using the intellect at all. So the first question is, what is this experience? What is this experience? What is this experience? And the next question to ask yourself, what is having this experience? What is having this experience? And the last question, who notices the body breathing? Who notices? Continuing to ride the waves of the breath. Wherever you notice resistance or tension, just relaxing, relaxing the body. And you, the one who's watching, relax. There's nothing to do, there's nothing to figure out. Just open to whatever's there. Open to the difficult sensations. Open to the emotions. Let this moment touch you deeply. And with the sound of the bell, we'll bring this meditation to a close. So feel free to move however you want to move. Take care of the body. And continue, if you can, to be aware of the breath. Be aware of when you're breathing in and when you're breathing out. And have that sense of being the witness to whatever's happening. Mickey calls this the seat of awareness. There's nothing really magical to it. It's just being aware that you're aware. Aware that you're the one who's listening or looking or breathing or thinking or whatever it is that's in your experience. Does anybody want to, it would be great to hear about your experience there in the meditation. Just whatever came up for you, or if you have any questions. And I would encourage people to just jump in. There's not too many of us, so it's easy to just jump in. You can put your hand up if you want, or wave your hand, but I find on Zoom, people are often hesitant and everything takes a little longer than in person. It's not quite so clear, reading the body language and things. So I encourage you to just jump in. So I think hopefully you all know how to unmute yourselves. Anyone not know? People are pretty Zoom literate these days.
I have a pretty busy mind, and so I'm still working on my meditation practice, because you always will be, but I get pulled away from it a lot with my busy mind. But I noticed that, which is a good thing, I guess. Anyways, it's a challenge for me that way, my busy mind.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's really this practice is about just embracing whatever's going on, right? So if you have a busy mind, it's like, oh, interesting. I have a busy mind.
Yeah.
There's no problem. No problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I surprisingly, to me, didn't feel that busy, and I felt like I was far away. I'm tired, and I probably realized like I've been going all day, so didn't realize I was tired. I realize it now more. But yeah, I sort of experienced that in a different way. And then near the end, yeah, some feelings were coming up, which just like I had nothing to do with the practice. So I mean, but I was aware of them and aware of so one is anger, and there's a lot of that in my environment right now. So that happened just briefly, and then sadness. And I've been noticing that a lot actually in my practice, my own practice daily, that those tend to be the times when I am aware of that, as opposed to just experiencing not sadness, but anger. I'll be just experiencing that and narrating it to myself. But yeah, this here I had a little more distance from it, so could see it.
And Mark, was there a sense of wanting things to be different?
No, that was actually interesting. And I thought that actually then right after that, I also had to pee throughout, and I thought, okay, I'm going to just deal with this, just accept that. And then I turned off the camera after I went to the washroom, and I was aware of the fact that I wasn't worried about it. Worried, am I going to get back fast enough? Am I I didn't, yeah. Mm-hmm. So I don't really feel worried. Or what was the question that you asked? What was it? Was
there a sense of wanting things to be different, of not wanting?
Oh, right.
Not wanting to,
Well, I guess, I mean, probably with the anger, when the anger came up, I was like, wait, what? There's nothing to be angry about here. Mm-hmm. So yes, probably with the anger, not with the sadness. I think, yeah, that probably happens with anger when I'm all the time, probably when I'm aware of it. When I'm aware of it while I'm meditating, then I'll remind myself, that's this is a lesson. Actually, I'm just, and typically it's in walking meditation. I'm just walking. I'm just here in my basement walking. So there is nothing to be angry about. And I think that's, yeah, I know. Well, it's there. Yeah. So, I mean, I can recognize that it's there, but I think it's also, I mean, I do think about that kind of as a as something like an insight that here I am, like actually in this, yeah, well, I don't know, like in the present moment, is there anything to be angry about?
Well, I mean, so it sounds like you're aware there was this sense of being like of meta awareness, if you will. Like you were angry and you knew you were angry, right?
mhm.
And but there was also this sense of questioning: is this anger appropriate? Is it justified? Why is it here? This wanting to know why the anger was there, right?
Yeah, or in this case, I was just sort of like maybe surprised by it
Right.
more than questioning it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think that is a pattern that I might do, that I might question it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in this course, the sort of central practice in this course is noticing resistance. And anytime you want something, anytime you want things to be different than they are, that's resistance. So, or, if you notice any bracing in the body or any like, oh, things are like this, but well, I don't want them to be like this, right? It doesn't actually have to be, it can be like, it can be very strong as in like, oh, the anger could cause all sorts of confusion and despair and very strong resistance, or it could be what I'm hearing you describe is a much more subtle resistance that's just kind of you know like I don't understand, just this questioning of your experience, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, I just want to point out that we're gonna like this is noticing when there's resistance, whether it's in the body or in the mind, is central to this. And then when we notice the resistance, then we relax, right? This is what I love about this practice. It's like the thing to do always is relax, right? And of course you can't, you can invite yourself to relax, you can invite your body to relax, you can invite your mind to relax, right? And with the mind, what I find is it's usually like letting go of figuring it out, right? Letting go of the mental, like not wanting it to be this way. Um, so there's just this, like, just relax. Thich Nhat Hanh, I'm a student of Thich Nhat Hanh's, and he often talks about stopping, right? And they're both getting at the same thing, which is that there's an effort being exerted, an opposition to what's going on in the present. And the idea is to drop that effort. Whether you call that stopping or whether you call that relaxing, it's always a dropping of the doing, a dropping of the exerting the force against what's going on right now. Um, and then noticing, so we relax and then we notice that we're the one who is aware, right? So there's anger. Oh, I'm the one who's aware. I'm the one who notices the anger. So I'm not the anger, right? Or there's these thoughts. I'm the one who notices the thoughts. So I'm not these thoughts, right? I'm always the one who notices. And if you're noticing something, then it's not you because you're the one who's noticing, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I find that hard to accept still. I can intellectually get it, but I find it hard to, yeah, I find it hard to accept.
Right. Right.
It still feels like it is me
Yeah.
because it's not like, it's like some small part of me. It's not all of me.
Yeah.
But I find it hard to say that anger isn't me.
Right. Right. I want to point out that everything we're doing here is what we would call in Buddhism skillful means, right? And skillful means it's not the absolute truth. It's useful, in the present moment. It's useful in the context that we're in, right? So the idea of saying, I am not my feelings is useful to be able to not get caught in them, not feel we have to do something about it. To drop our defenses to experiencing emotions. Sometimes it's very useful to say, I am my feelings. Right? To say, I don't want to create a war with my feelings because then I'm creating a war with myself. Right? Neither of these are absolute truths. Right? And then there's the whole non-dual perspective, right? It's not that I am or am not my feelings. That's a dualistic perspective, either one of those, right? Because the mind often wants to my mind always wants to figure things out, and it's very analytical, and so you might be hesitant to say, I'm not my feelings, because there's a sense that you are, right? But what might be helpful is looking at it more as an exercise, just to try. Oh, thanks, Monica. Just to try, just like sort of adopt the perspective without necessarily buying into it, but say, oh, let me just, but it can be really useful as a way to disidentify, as a way to gain space between you and the feelings, right? Or between awareness and the feelings. Let's not even say which one's you, right? Sorry, Kathy, were you?
Are you saying that the real you is the observer, the noticer, and that your feelings aren't the real you because your feelings can always change? The real constant you is the observer of yourself, of your feelings, your thoughts, and your body.
Yeah. I think the question of who is the real you is like, that's an exploration that continues and continues and continues. Mickey's definitely saying the real you is not your emotions or your thoughts or your body. That's the method of practice, right? Is to say, I am the awareness, I'm the witness. And I think that's a really useful perspective to take. And he does say, like, at some point, this individual awareness merges with the cosmic awareness, if you will. But that's unlikely to happen in these 6 weeks. So I would see it as a skillful means, right? But I would never call it the absolute truth. Like, who is the real you is really a question for you to hold.
Here's a question for you too.
Hold? Yeah. Like, it's not, I don't think there's any absolute answer to it. I think if you have the absolute answer to that, you're probably enlightened.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
And I confess I am not enlightened. Thich Nhat Hanh likes to say we're all part-time Buddhas, right? At any moment where we're truly present, that's enlightenment. And it comes and goes, but mostly it goes.
But did you just say the real you is not your thoughts, feelings, and your body sensations? that
Yeah.
you are the awareness, the
Yeah, for
awareness?
practical purposes, and certainly for the purposes of this course, um, uh, we tend to identify with our thoughts and our emotions and our body,
Mm,
and that gets us into trouble, and we get lost in it. And so, what we're exploring here is how to create space between the awareness and the thoughts and emotions in order to allow ourselves to fully experience the moment. Because when we resist the moment, then we, instead of the moment passing through us, it gets stuck, and the energy gets stuck. And you can think of it as like the mental pattern gets stuck. It creates an internal knot. You can think of it in terms of energy. You can think of it in terms of an emotion, an emotional knot, if you will, or blockage. But the idea is that we store these things inside, and they wind up blocking our natural joy, our peace, our energy, our enthusiasm, our love. Um, these things are all there underneath, and that I can attest to from personal experience. These things are all there underneath, and we don't need anything outside in order to feel that. All we need to do is, remove the veil, if you will, of these blockages, of these thoughts and emotions and patterns of mind.
Are you
Um,
talking, are you talking about attachment to thoughts and feelings, etc., and body sensations that create blockages? And that? Sure, but don't be so attached.
I'm talking about the patterns of mind themselves, right? And we're going to get into this in great detail over the course, but the idea is that the way that these things release is by not resisting them. They want to release. It takes energy to keep them inside of us, and so we don't need to go looking for them. They just naturally present themselves, and all we need to do is get out of the way. All we need to do is relax, because our tendency instead is to defend, because we don't want to experience it, because when they come up with the difficult, like with the pain, the emotional pain that we resisted in the first place because we didn't want to experience the emotional pain, right? Our mind naturally says pain. No, don't want that. Don't want that, right? So, or on the other hand, pleasure, want that, and then it grabs on. So these blockages can come from both resisting pain and grasping at pleasure. But so our practice is to allow ourselves to experience, to drop the resistance to life, right? And also not to store new ones. And really at the beginning, it's mainly not storing new ones, because that's a little easier. Um, it's exactly the same, whether it's an old one coming up or whether it's a new one. And you can't always tell whether it's new or old.
Or my coach told me the best way is to just sit still with it, experience what it is to feel, to have these feelings, and then with practice over time, they just go fast. They kind of disappear faster and faster. Is that the same thing as relaxing into it, or would you describe it differently?
It sounds like the same thing. The difference with, I mean, the big thing in this course is just, Mickey goes to great lengths to explain the mechanism and to, give all sorts of examples of how we resist, because the hardest part is noticing the resistance, and then a very detailed methodology of how, how you can allow yourself to experience it, because the mind tricks us into thinking that we're letting go when we're not. And the biggest distinction there, and I actually I saw this in what one of you wrote. about, this idea of um, of letting go of the emotional pain, letting go of the difficult emotions, letting go of the difficult thoughts, letting go of the tension in the body. And that's not what we're letting go of. We're letting go of the resistance to experiencing these things, right? The tendency of our mind is to say, oh, I have all this anger and I want to let it go. No, that's not what we're learning. What we're learning is, I have all this anger. I want to let it in. I want to experience it fully. I want the anger to touch the depths of my soul. And not, I want to let go of my resistance to experiencing the anger. And those are two very different things.
I think Therese is talking on mute.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, sorry. I just wanted to ask you more about that, because say you're feeling angry, like what's the difference between the resistance and the actual feeling of being angry? Because I guess I'm just not clear on that point.
Well, the anger comes up, right? And quite often what happens when anger comes up, so say somebody says something to you that bothers you and makes you angry. So what tends to happen is the thoughts start going, the anger comes up, thoughts start going, and the thoughts say, they had no right to say that, they're wrong, what am I going to do about this? I need to do something about this, right? So so the idea is that, and those thoughts, you have those thoughts because you're trying to defend against fully experiencing the anger. You don't want to experience the anger. So your thoughts are trying to kind of figure a way out of the anger, because, and your thoughts, your mind tends to look outside and say, I'm angry because this thing happened outside. I'm angry because this person said this to me. But if you didn't have any of these internal blockages, any of these stored energy patterns, you wouldn't get angry. They have touched the seed of anger in you. They have touched something in you that triggers the anger, right? So the method here is, I notice there's anger. I notice there's resistance. I notice there's this trying to figure it out. There's all these thoughts. And to say, okay, the problem is not on the outside. I mean, there may be a problem on the outside, but the pressing problem is the inner disturbance, the reaction that's going on. So the first thing I'm going to do is let go of the outside. I'm going to let these thoughts go on, but I'm going to say these thoughts are not my concern. I don't need to stop them. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to do anything about what this person said. All I need to do, so I let go of those thoughts. I let go of the pull of those thoughts on my attention. I put my attention on the feeling of the anger, and I relax.
Okay, that's the part I wanted to get at. Feeling the anger and relaxing. So when you feel the anger, can you just talk a bit more about that? And
so when I say relax, I don't mean relax as in go from anger to calm.
right.
Relax as in stop fighting the feeling of anger and let the heart play its tune.
What does that mean though? Like,
it means, well, it's about noticing the resistance, noticing the exertion of will to try and get out of the situation, to try and either figure it out or tighten the body. This wanting the anger to be gone, this wanting to get myself out of this situation.
so I get that part, but the actual feeling of the anger,
Right.
like,
So you notice that you're exerting this effort to get out of this situation.
right.
stop exerting the effort. That's what I mean by relax.
Can you also connect with what's making you angry? Connect with what's causing you to get angry and just examine that?
No, no.
No?
The big thing is that it's not a doing, it's a not doing.
Oh,
Dropping of the doing. So you're not trying, because getting in touch with the anger is kind of figuring it out, right?
mhm, mhm.
So, and although you want to do this in order to release the blockage or in order to not store the experience, in the moment you're not trying to do anything. All you're doing is dropping the doing. You're dropping the resistance, and you're dropping control. You're dropping any attempt to steer the situation, and you're just, it's like you're metaphorically, letting your hands drop to your side and just letting the universe do whatever it wants with you, basically, right? Monica? You're muted, Monica.
Leah stopped barking, so I can unmute. This conversation is making me think about the validation. I did a course in dialectical behavior therapy a couple years back, and I don't know if I'm understanding this correctly, but I'm wondering if an element of this might be almost like a kind of self-validation. It's like, oh, you're really mad. It's like, oh, I can see that's a lot of anger there, and like not trying to do anything about it, but it's just like, that's anger. That's really fucking bad, or I don't know. Is that
Uh,
anywhere in the ballpark or not? No. Okay.
I mean that, I would say that whatever gets you there. That's not really
Right.
this
Okay.
technique, but whatever
Uh-huh.
gets you there. And in fact, when you hear Mickey's talks, um, I mean, he's always saying, work at it, right? So it really is whatever gets you there. Um, so there's this kind of basic technique he teaches of, dropping the doing, dropping the resistance, and noticing that you're the one who's noticing what's going on, and letting go of the pull of the thoughts that are trying to get you to fix the problem. So that's the general overview, but like how you actually do that,
Mm-hmm.
this is why you have to practice, because your mind is different than my mind is different than everyone else's mind, right? And our minds are very wily, to figure out how to defend against what we don't want. We spend our whole lives figuring out what we want and what we don't want, how to get what we want, how to avoid what we don't want. And this course is about learning how not to do that. Because that's what gets us into trouble, right? So why don't we start into the chapters, just because it's already almost 8 o'clock, and we should probably, in a way, we've gotten ahead of ourselves. I mean, I've just kind of summarized the whole thing, right? But that's okay, because it doesn't really matter. By the way, has everybody put up your hands if you've read all the 4 chapters, or yeah? Okay, great. So I don't feel like I need to. I mean, there's no way I'm going to go over every point, but so actually, at this point, why don't we just do a quick standing up, just to give a little energy to the body, and we're just standing up. You want to really stretch. That you're the one who's aware of the movements, aware of the sensations. And then when you're ready, come sit back down. We're here for a good time, not a long time. So, chapter 1, the voice in your head. So, I'm sure folks have noticed that there's this unintentional dialogue going on in your head a lot of the time. Anyone notice that? Yeah. So, so basically what Mickey says is, this unintentional dialogue is really there because of a sense of unease. And the mental talk is an attempt by our mind to feel better. And the cause of it is basically fear and desire, right? Desire is in just any sort of craving, any sort of wanting. So if you take a close look at the voice, you'll see it's just trying to make you comfortable, and it'll say anything to try and make you feel comfortable, right? And that we, because we have this kind of fear, we try and control, we want to control everything. And even just the narrative, you're walking down the street and you're like, oh, that's a nice tree. Oh, look at the clouds. Oh, that whole just narrative that doesn't seem to have much of an emotional charge. That's still, it's an attempt to feel more comfortable, because then you feel you have more control, right? And we take the outside world and then we create this kind of mental reality, and we live in our minds. And so the voice in your head is the manifestation of that. And it's if you look closely, you'll see that it's not a very good advisor, right? You walk into a room, you say there's a party, you wanted to go to this party, you walk into the room, and and then there's something triggers you, you feel uncomfortable, and the voice in your head says, I got to get out of here. And then you listen to it. You're like, oh, I got to get out of here, right? And so the big, and there's no reason for you to get out of there. Maybe you wanted to be there for a particular reason. You wanted to, make new friends or meet someone or just have a good time. And you're going to spoil that just because you were triggered. You didn't realize you were triggered. The voice in your head came up and said, get out of here, and off you went, right? And so the admonition here really is, stop listening without question to what the voice in your head is saying, right? And in chapter 2 as well, he goes on, he talks about the roommate, right? And how this roommate, can be kind of nasty, because often the voice in your head is, harsh judgment of oneself or harsh judgment of others, right? And questioning, right? Because of this need for control and this fear, it's like, oh, should I be doing that? Oh, maybe I shouldn't. Oh, I don't know if I should be doing this, right? And constantly questioning ourselves. That's the voice in your head. It's the voice of fear, right?
Lori, may I ask a question? Sure. What is the difference between following the conversation you had versus following your gut? Because, a lot of decisions that I made in my life following my gut were actually the right decisions, even though they might not necessarily look like that was the case. Mm-hmm. So, for me, when I read both of his books, that was kind of the question that I always had is, when do you follow and when you don't follow?
Yeah.
And what's the difference, I guess?
Yeah, and I mean, it's a really good question. And I'm not sure that there's a right answer to it, other than to say, if you notice that you're experiencing fear or craving, if you notice that that the spotlight is on you, that it's all about you, then it's then it's probably not your higher self, if you will. I tend to think in terms of higher self and lower self. So, and we tend to, to just believe our thoughts. So the first step is to, to relax and notice that you're the one who's noticing this thought, right? And what you're describing actually doesn't even sound like a thought. It sounds like a feeling.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. But this is talking about the thoughts, right?
Mhm.
He's talking about the voice in the head or the inner roommate. That's these are thoughts, not feelings, right? So it's kind of checking in, because this way of checking in, to see, to say, to wait, to sort of say, wait a minute, what's going on here, right? The method is always to look at, like, what is going on here and question what's going on here, rather than blindly follow the voice in your head, if you will.
Mhm.
So, you may look and see what's going on here, and you may notice that, oh, I seem to be, in a clearer place. I seem to be, my emotional state seems pretty positive. My mind seems pretty clear. I'm not being, yanked over here or over there by my thoughts. And I'm feeling this feeling. And then, so you notice that the conditions are such, of your experience are such that, this feels like my higher self. This feels like, something I should trust. So then trust it, right? But it's coming, it's kind of, an exploration of the experience, an awareness of the experience. And only you can really say, I notice that when my experience is like this, it tends to be my higher self, if you will. And when my experience is like that, it tends to be my lower self. Because this is really, what he's talking about here is really noticing when you're driven by fear and desire, and and not following fear and desire.
Thank you. Mm.
Is that the higher self when you notice you're driven by fear and desire, not following the fear and desire, the fears and desires? That's the higher self.
It's yeah. I mean, to me, again, these are questions. They're not clear lines. We're trying to, um, like, if I'm feeling joy, if I'm feeling love, then I think of that as my higher self, right? When I'm thinking about what is called for in this moment that's best for all concerned, I think of that as my higher self, as opposed to, I'm afraid that I'm not going to have enough money. I would love to give this person some money, but I don't have enough money to give them. I'm worried. I need to take care of myself. So that, when there's a lot of selfing and when there's a lot of fear around your survival, that's not your higher self, right?
So when you're feeling love or feeling what's best for the moment, in the moment, for all concerned,
I mean, that those are some guideposts.
higher self feelings.
Yeah, yeah. It's something that with practice, it just becomes more clear. And the hardest part is just asking the question: where is this coming from? Is this my higher self? Is this my lower self? You know,
You also say compassion is a form of.
yeah, certainly higher self. So, like, I'm quite clear that when I'm thinking of doing something, if I notice I'm angry, not a good time to make a decision when I'm feeling angry, right? That's very clear. That's you know that's very clear. So, I guess the other thing that he talks about in this chapter is just saying, um, if you're noticing the voice, then you're not the voice, right? You are not the voice in your head. And in his, like, he's quite clear too in saying that as far as like his own personal practice is that any unintentional thinking he regards as garbage. You know, I'm not saying it's necessarily all garbage, but as a practice, it's a really good practice because we get so hooked into it so easily. So it's nice to, you know, turn our default from believing it to, you know, discarding it and looking at it as, you know, this is just junk. I'm not interested in listening to this, right? And you know,
To elaborate on if you're noticing the voice or not the voice in your head. What does that mean? You elaborate on that a bit?
it means you're the one who notices.
Yeah.
So you're the subject of that experience. And the object of that experience is what you notice. So you're not the object, you're the subject. You're the one who is aware, right? It's like you're looking at a picture. You look at one picture, you look at another picture, you look at another picture. You know, you look at a picture of a lamp, you look at a picture of a tree, you look at a picture of a bird. And then I say, okay, which of these are you? And you're like, I'm none of them. I'm the one who sees the picture. And it's the same thing when you see the thought, when you see the emotion, when you see the bodily sensation. You're not these things. You're the, you know, these are just the content of your experience. They're not you. That's the basic stance for this practice.
You are the observer, not the observer.
Yeah, and if you like, and if you know, if you're noticing it, then it's not you.
You're noticing you're being observing. What was that?
Noticing the thought, if you're noticing, you know, whatever's coming, whatever you observe in your experience is not you because you're the one who's observing it.
Lori,
Yeah, sorry.
I was just going to say, I love the example in the book where he says, just say hello to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And then he says, okay, now yell it inside your mind. And it's just like, it's great. It's great. It's a great example.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great way to just have that sense of being the observer. Yeah. Absolutely. So, why don't we do a quick breakout? So, has everyone done breakout rooms before?
Sorry.
So basically, I'm going to break us into groups of 2. And you'll see something comes up that says, you know, join breakout room. So you need to click that. And then basically it'll look like the meeting's ending, but then it'll come up again and you'll be in a room with just 2. And then we'll do that for about 5 minutes. And you'll see that a thing comes up that says there's a minute left and it'll be counting down. You don't have to do anything at that point. When the minute's over, it will take you back to this room. It will, once again, the breakout room will collapse and you'll be back in the main room. So, and so for these few minutes, the topic is just, what do you notice about the voice in your head? So what does it tend to, you know, what does it tend to say? You know, is it, are you aware of it? How aware, you know, how often are you aware of it? And just, you know, is it, just, what's your observations around your own experience with the voice in your head? So is everyone clear on that? Yeah. Okay. So, and I'll probably join one of the rooms, so I hope you don't mind. So here we go. So I've opened the room, so there should be something now that you just click to join the room.
Okay. If you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah, I guess I noticed 2 things. Like one thing the voice in my head does is ruminate and repeat conversations, the conversations that I want to have, or that I should have had differently, or that I can, yeah. So it goes over and reimagines conversations or imagines new conversations and is like doing a conversation with
So
somebody.
it's kind of like Groundhog Day, but different.
Yeah, I guess. So that, I think, yeah, that I do that a lot, and then I catch myself and I say, please stop doing that. Otherwise, yeah, it plans mostly work, like mostly lessons, or things that I'm going to write, or it plans things. Those are the two main things that I think it does all the time.
Okay. That's neat that you catch yourself with the ruminating. That's really cool. Yeah, that's wonderful.
Yeah, what about you?
So my what I noticed about my voice is that it doesn't know how to prioritize very well. Unless I'm observing the observer, and then I can prioritize really well. Observing the voice. It's very critical, very harsh, although that's transforming. Sort of like you're ruminating, catching that. I'm catching the harshness, and I'm trying to be gentle, even into my physical movements, like brushing my teeth, or I don't know, even just putting something down on the table. I'm trying to be more consciously gentle to do that. What else do I notice? Yeah, it's the forcing, the perfection, the trying to do more than is necessary, thinking that it's not enough. So yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to a lot of that. Although I think what happened, I did some intensive CBT therapy at a time when I was really self-critical, and I think I really corrected a lot of that through CBT, and I find that I'm not self-critical in the same way.
That's fantastic.
Now I'm arguing with my partner. Actually, I'm not arguing with myself, or I'm arguing with someone else.
It's transformed, eh?
Yeah.
Or it's morphed into something else. Yeah. Well, it's funny. My brother has done this course 3 times now, and he said his arguing with his partner has reduced by 90%, which is huge. So I think that's pretty amazing. I probably shouldn't be talking about my brother. Anyway, that's his personal stuff. But Mark, I know we don't have much time left, but I know you from somewhere, and I'm not sure where.
Really? You don't look familiar to me, but have you studied at Ryerson or?
Yes, I studied at Ryerson back in 90. I graduated in 94.
No. Okay, not that then.
Hey everyone, welcome back. So I hope you enjoyed that. One thing I just wanted to make clear when we talk about the voice in your head, it's only referring to unintentional thoughts that come from this sense of unease or fear or craving. So, when you're intentionally, when you're using your mind to solve a problem or to plan something, to do work, and there's an intentionality to it, that is not what Mickey calls the voice in your head, even though it is a voice in your head. Not what he's referring to. He's really referring to the reactive voice, as opposed to an intentional.
Is the voice in your head the observer, and the roommate is the judge? Like the observer is more objective, but the roommate is a very judgmental part of you.
Well, the observer isn't a thought. The observer is the awareness.
Oh, word.
And then there's different kinds of thoughts. So there's intentional thoughts, there's unintentional thoughts. And so your voice in your head or the inner roommate is your unintentional thinking.
What does that mean? Unintentional, intentional.
So like if I say hello in your head, you can say hello in your head, right?
Yeah.
That's intentional. You made yourself say that, right? Or if you decide that, I want to find out more about so-and-so, so I'm gonna read about it, I'm gonna think about it. That's intentional. But when you're lying in bed at night, and you can't fall asleep because your mind is going, that's unintentional. Or when you're walking down the street and your mind just starts going, you're narrating it, you're taking a shower, but you're thinking about this or that, not because you decided you wanted to think about that, but because it just sort of pops, these thoughts just pop into your head. That's all unintentional. That's all the voice in your head.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and your inner roommate is really just the voice in your head, and it's just another way of thinking about it. The big thing in that chapter that Mickey talks about is this idea of inner problem versus outer problem. So, and I touched on that earlier, how we all tend to focus on the outer problem. We tend to think that our happiness or unhappiness comes from outside. If it rains, I'm not going to be happy. If it's sunny, I'll be happy. If I get this job, I'll be happy. If I don't get this job, I'll be unhappy. They said this thing, and now I'm unhappy. So it was caused by them saying this thing. All of these things. I mean, our society today is all about the outer, right? It's like if you want happiness, then you need the new kitchen, you need the vacation, you need, the relationship, you need, blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
Whereas this perspective, so that's the outer, and then the inner is, our emotions and thoughts and bodily sensations. And really at the end of the day, what we all want in life is to feel good, right? The reason we want the job, the reason we want the relationship, the reason we want the vacation is to feel good, right? So rather than take the indirect route and try and control everything around us, which is impossible, right? Controlling other people, controlling the economy, controlling the weather, controlling COVID, controlling all this stuff, as opposed to why not work directly on the inner, right? And in particular, when a disturbance comes up, when we're triggered, the immediate problem, in most cases, right? And I mean, your kid runs out onto the, into traffic, obviously you need to deal with that first, right? Some outer problems are actually, the saber-toothed tiger that we need to deal with. But most of them are not emergencies. And many of them, there's no problem at all outside. It's just in your head, right? Somebody doesn't say hi to you. And then your mind is going, and you're trying to figure out what to do about that problem. And there's no problem, right? Or the driver ahead of you is driving really slowly and you can't pass them. There's nothing you can do, right? So just, so the idea is that when you notice a disturbance, don't ask, what should I do about it? Instead, ask who notices, right? Move right to the inner. Move right to the inner and say, who's noticing this? Who's noticing this? So to get that space from the emotions and the thoughts. And relax. And just let it in. Let it move through you so that you don't store it. Right?
Just go with the flow type of thing.
Pardon?
Flow, just go with the flow a lot type of thing. Let life happen, unfold before you. Don't try to grasp on things.
Right, but it's not going with the flow outside.
Oh.
It's going with the flow inside. So it's not saying, that that you don't need to respond to what's going on outside. It's not saying you shouldn't have goals outside or anything like that. It's saying when there's a disturbance that comes up, an inner disturbance that comes up, don't look outside. Like the first thing you should focus on is what's going on inside, right?
So your own desires, your own appetites, your own needs you could be your own worst enemy, not somebody outside. Your own self is what the problem is, not somebody an other that you're othering, type of thing.
Well, it's saying the immediate problem is what's going on inside. The immediate problem is the reaction.
Right.
But even the words, he actually says, like at the start of the chapter, he says, even just seeing it as a problem is not the best way to go, but just to notice the disturbance and open to it, and not even to see it as a problem, but to see it as an opportunity to learn to let go. Right. And if it's a blockage that was inside already, it's an opportunity to release it by allowing it to move through you, by getting out of the way, basically. Right. So again, it's always it's a not doing. Right. It's just, you just notice and relax, and the mind is going to be pulling you to fix the outer problem, release the pull of the thoughts.
Honest.
I always got this 3-part: relax, release, lean back. It's not necessarily, you don't necessarily have to do it in that order, but the idea is to stop exerting will to defend against what's going on. That's the relax. To release the pull of the thoughts. So it's kind of like tug of war. If you're holding the rope, there can be like an NFL football team and it's just you on this side of the rope, and you think, oh my God, they're going to, but the trick is let go of the rope. And then that football team can't pull you anywhere, right? And that's the pull on your attention of the thoughts. The thoughts, somebody says something to you and then the thoughts just start in. They had no business saying that. What should I do? Trying to figure it out. Mm-hmm. The thoughts go right to fixing the outer problem. And it's like, see that what's happening is there's an inner reaction and your mind is looking outside, and let go of what's going on outside and focus on the inner reaction. Notice you're the one who, is it relax, release, lean back? Lean back means leaning back into the seat of awareness, because it's kind of like this idea that everything that goes on in our experience seems to go on in front of us. And so we lean back away from it into the seat of awareness. Right. But the way that's just his short form for it. But really, it could be just asking yourself the question, who notices, or what is having this experience, so that you get that space from the thoughts and the emotions. And then you just let your heart play its tune. You tune into the body, the emotional body, and you just feel it. And you open to it, and like I'll often say to myself, just yes, 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 I surrender, take me, right? Just have your way with me, universe, right? So that's chapter 2. Anybody have any comments or any? I especially love when people say, I don't agree with that. That doesn't make sense to me.
So when you're having an experience and you notice it, like say anger is coming up, you notice it, you relax, you stop, resistance to the thoughts, you release the pull of the thoughts, the angry thoughts, and then what happens? What happens? Is that true? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, what you'll find is that when you start practicing with this stuff, it's a lot easier said than done. So,
It's second nature.
Yeah, and I've got a bunch of, after class, I'll send you an email and it'll have a link to a folder, a Google folder. You don't need a Gmail account, but anyway, there's a link to a Google folder. So it'll have, one of the things it'll have is a summary of the book. And so, and the other thing that it has is a sheet on how to let go. And so it explains the relax, release, lean back. I mean, Mickey kind of has it peppered throughout the book, but I've summarized it in the sheet, and so it's all written down there for us. So you don't have to take notes really in these sessions. So it's there, and I would actually suggest that you print it out if you can, and keep it with you, because it's a really nice reference. And when you're learning something new, like it's going to be awkward when you're learning something new because you don't remember it all, right? So, and it's not really that complex. Like I'm pretty anal, like I'm, looking at it from all these different perspectives. But as you work with it more and more, it becomes more intuitive, and you start to get a feel for what you're trying to do. And but it takes a bit for it to sink in, and it really sinks in through practice, right? Yeah.
Laurie, can you give an example from like early days when you were learning this, and what those steps looked like in a real world example?
Yeah. So, like I used to bike to work, and often I would get upset with cars and things that cars would do. And so then when I started practicing this, I when a car would do something that I didn't like, I would, and I noticed that I was getting, that there was frustration or anger or whatever. Then I would say to myself, this is an opportunity to learn to let go. And I would relax and just notice, that I was the one who was aware. And then it would just go, right? That's an easy one. That's a small thing. And, but it's amazing how effective it is at not storing that disturbance. The other hand, at the other end of the spectrum, I have often have tension right here in my chest area, so I just practice. I practice just letting it in, just feeling it. I just try and feel it. I just and see it as I just try and relax any like there's subtle resistance to like not wanting to feel it, and I just work on dropping that resistance. Another one would be there was something that happened where I did something that I thought was really stupid, and I really regretted it. And I was actually reading the book, preparing for one of these classes, and the mind just was going on and on and on, right? And I couldn't read. The mind would get pulled off into these thoughts, and so I just put my attention on my body. I didn't try and stop the thoughts or anything, but I was aware that I was in this disturbance, and I would just allow myself to relax to some extent, certainly not fully, but I relax, and I would just, so instead of focusing on those thoughts, I would put my attention somewhere else. So that's the release of trying to fix that problem, and notice that I was the one who was aware of all this, right? And then I'd go back to reading, and then it would start again, and then I would do that again. And I would go back to reading, start again. And this went on for about half an hour. And then it was gone. And I was amazed because in the old days, this would have bothered me for months. For months, right? But you can never predict how long it's gonna keep how long the disturbance is gonna go. But it's not about making it calm down. The key thing is it's not about getting rid of it, right? It's not about finding calm or joy or peace or anything like that. It's about letting the universe fuck with you and saying, go ahead, go ahead.
Lori, what is the difference between sitting in awareness versus putting your attention to something else? It feels like it's two different, they're kind of sort of different concepts.
Yeah, the putting the attention to somewhere else, like putting the attention on my body, is the release. That's the release part. That's like, because the thoughts suck the attention in. They draw your attention into them, and you wind up with what Mickey calls object consciousness. And in chapter 4, he talks about this idea that our consciousness can collapse. Basically, it's the difference between, you can be watching a movie, and the movie can be so interesting that you become unaware that you're sitting in a theater, and all there is in your experience is the movie. You're unaware of, that you're watching a movie. There's just the movie, right? There isn't the theater, there isn't the person watching, it's just the movie. And that's the way we live our lives, basically, is that the movie is our life, and it doesn't just have sight and sound. It has, touch, and it has thoughts, and it has emotions, and we're just totally absorbed in it. And being in the seat of awareness, or the witness, is when the spell is broken and you see, oh, I'm in a theater, I'm watching a movie, and it's just a movie. It's just a movie. Because I was so scared there, but it's just a movie. It's just a movie, right? I'm still scared, but not anywhere near as much. And I have a perspective on what's going on here. I see it's just a movie. And that's what we're trying to do, is to see that our, these emotional storms, these powerful thoughts, they're not us, and they're not in charge of us. So it really is an art, I must say. I mean, it's an art, and it's the big thing I would say, which I've been emphasizing, it's a not doing. It's a noticing the resistance, whatever form the resistance is taking, and there's many, many, many forms, and then dropping the resistance. And often it happens on multiple levels. So like first the anger comes up or whatever, and then you go to the body and, try and work, you invite yourself to relax, but then you're trying to relax. So that's more resistance. You're trying to make things different than they are. So then you need to drop the trying to relax, right? And then you notice that, you're still fighting. You're still fighting the moment. And so you drop the fighting, right? And you'll notice that you kind of, quite often it shifts from one kind of resistance to another kind of resistance. And it's just sort of continually monitoring, am I fighting this moment, or am I really letting it in? So again, this, you'll get tricked over and over again. I get tricked over and over again, right? And the stronger the reaction, the more you're going to get tricked. And so, that we work with the small stuff. We try and work with the really small stuff. And I'll go into this. Actually, we can go into this just quickly to go over chapter 3. There's not much time left. We've already talked about this, actually. It's just, who are you, right? Who are you really? And we've talked about this, and like that you're the experiencer. You're not You're not your name. You're not your occupation. You're not your relationship. You're not, you're not the content of your experience. You're the one who's experiencing it. And he talks about, I am the one who sees from back in here somewhere. I look out and I'm aware of the events, thoughts, and emotions that pass before me. Right. So again, this is, this who are you thing is a real deep question. So it's not something we're going to just answer tonight. And I've talked about the lucid self, chapter 4, just this, really the thing to get is just that it's kind of like the movie theater, or the other thing you can think of is like when you're in a dream and you don't realize you're in a dream, right? But it is possible to realize you're in a dream. It's called lucid dreaming. And once you realize you're in the dream, it completely changes what's going on, right? And so it's just having that awareness that everything that's going on in your experience is not you. And that we don't have. Yeah.
I have a question, I think, which is it's related to this, and it's a example from the next chapter about this. So then the next chapter goes into this, the movie analogy, and imagines this technology that could allow us to be someone else, and then suggests that if we were placed in this technology, that we have had the feelings and thoughts and as well as all the sensations of someone else, right, there would still be a witness. And then I'm thinking, how do you know that? Like, we don't have that technology yet. And how do you know that you wouldn't just be the other person and therefore not conscious?
I mean, it's obviously it's a theoretical question, but it's the idea. It's
what's the point? But so the point is that there's the argument is that there's an actual additional thing, an additional level of the senses, which is witnessing. No,
it's not.
Okay.
No.
Because then all of those other senses seem to be everything.
Because it's not a sense. Because when you see a movie, just sight, right? There's a sense, like you're the one who sees it. There's a subject to that experience. The object of that experience is the form that you see, the colors and the shapes and all that, those aspects of seeing, right? But there's the one who sees, right? There's the awareness of the seeing. And so the awareness, there can't be seeing without awareness, right? The two are
right
in a way inseparable, but there is this, there is this sense of being aware that you're the one who's seeing this, right?
Yeah.
And so there's all these different senses, including thinking and feeling, emotions. There's all these different senses, but each one of them, there's awareness of that sensation, right? There's awareness of it. And so he's saying, what if you could have a movie that encompassed all the sensations, including thinking and feeling, but there's still that awareness, right? There's still that awareness.
Yeah, that's where I think it's the same thing that I was stuck on before.
Yeah.
There's some relationship between this that I'm not getting, because it feels like that's everything. Like if thoughts, feelings, and all sensations were taken over by this machine, then I would wake up and I wouldn't have the opportunity to be lucid within that experience. Okay, I'll just leave this alone because I guess it's kind of theoretical, but I think there's I have a stumbling block here, which is about that.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it's the self
Right.
question.
Well, it's like if you're sitting in silence and the room is silent and you hear no sound, there's still an awareness of the silence.
But there are times in meditation actually where you're not aware of that, where time passes and then you look and you realize, I mean, I've done this as an experiment in Vipassana, that you're supposed to like see the disappearance of time. So that like you work with a clock and then you look, and then there can be times where 10 minutes disappears. You've never had that experience?
I mean, I've had the experience of being on autopilot, of being of
Yeah, no, I think this is
forgetfulness, but
okay.
Yeah.
I think this is something different, but
Yeah.
I don't want to take us too far afield.
Yeah, let's skip it for now, and we can come back to it later. But it's, I mean, this sense of being the witness or the observer, it really is an experiential thing.
And
So,
it makes sense to me in my own life. It makes sense to me in my own head and body. It's just that thought experiment where I'm supposed to be completely someone else, that I can't accept that witnessing.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know how to make myself see that, because okay.
I would just let it go for now.
Yeah.
Don't they sort of picture yourself as an observer of yourself? No. No.
Yeah, we really need to do this writing exercise, because this is kind of foundational to our practice for the week, between now and next week. So do all of you have a pen and paper or pencil, or you can do it on your computer or wherever you want to do it. So we talked about this idea of working with the small stuff. I'll just wait for everyone to. We talked about this idea of working with the small stuff. And because, we're learning this new practice, and, it's kind of like learning to play the piano if you've never played the piano before. So you can't just start with Mozart, you need to start with the scales, right? And the scales is just the teeny little disturbances. So if you think of, your reactions, your emotional reactions in your life, imagine a 10-point scale where 10 is like the biggest emotional storm, and 1 is just like the smallest thing you can recognize as an emotion, as a disturbance. We really want to work with the 1s and 2s, right? And generally what the 1s and 2s are is things where, we talked about the inner problem and the outer problem, where it's really just an inner problem. There's in the sense that there's nothing to fix on the outside. So examples would be the weather, right? Assuming that it's, again, that it's small. It's not like, you've been planning this outdoor party for a year and then it rains and you feel like your life is ruined. That's not a 1 or a 2. But generally you can't do anything about the weather. So, you had planned to go for a walk and then you see that it's raining and you don't want to go, you don't want to go for a walk in the rain. So that might be a small disturbance that you can just practice with. Or lineups are a good one. You can't really do anything about the lineup other than wait. So can you just, or it could be somebody saying something that bothers you, but that doesn't really need to be responded to. It could be, someone driving that bothers you. It could be something from the past, because you can't change the past, but obviously not something big. So not something that, not something that happened in your childhood, but maybe something that happened, a day ago or an hour ago or 5 minutes ago. You know, like you, I don't know, the spot, it could be like the spot on your pants, right? You dropped mustard on your pants. So, okay, you dropped mustard on, you know, in front of somebody, or I don't know. Anyway, so so the idea here is that often we have these things like I described where, you know, I'd be biking to work and a car would do something that bothered me. And that was, I found great small stuff for me to work with because it was something that happened, you know, a lot. And so I could kind of be on the lookout for it because one of the hardest things with practicing with this is just actually noticing that you're disturbed. You know, where, you know, a reaction comes up and being aware, oh, there's a reaction here. There's a disturbance here. So so the idea here is just to write down, to brainstorm your small stuff, to write down little things that bother you. That, you know, it could be something that your partner or friend does. You know, not hanging up their clothes, or, you know, asking you a certain thing, or, you know, not putting the toilet seat down, or I don't know what, you know, just small stuff that bothers you. It might be noisy neighbors. Don, you're muted.
There we go. There's a small thing. I can't get it to work. So the idea for this is that we are writing these things down, but we're also working with them as well. Is that right? Like if we do notice, then we
Well,
we
for
try
now,
to
you're just
release
writing
the
them down.
lapse.
For now, you're just
Oh,
writing
okay.
them down.
Okay. Okay.
And we'll
Thank you.
just give you another minute or two.
Oh, we're doing it right now.
You're writing it down. Yeah, you're thinking of things that bother you.
Sorry, I thought this was for the rest of the week.
No,
Sorry.
no. Rest of the week you'll be actually practicing. You know,
Okay.
that's when you'll be
Thank
working. But right now, it's just writing down things. We're just brainstorming your small stuff. What is your own personal small stuff? Does everyone have like at least 2 things on their list? Yeah. So we just have 5 minutes left. So let's, you can keep working on this afterwards for sure. And it's not intended to be exhaustive. It's really having 2 things is fine. Um, anyone want to share anything they've written down? Just so people are aware of the types of things that we're talking about here.
One pickle left in the jar.
One pickle left in the jar.
Yeah. Eat it, and then like we can get rid of the jar. So.
I have
Yeah.
I have my family not coming to dinner when I say dinner is ready, because I want it to be hot and eaten right when it's ready.
That sounds perfect. Anyone else? Okay, so let's go on from here just because we're running out of time. So I'm just going to share my screen here. And as I mentioned, you're going to have access to this folder, and it'll have guided meditation. So you can go in here and you'll see there's 2 for this week, 15-minute and a 24-minute, and you can download them. I don't know. In Google Docs, you just click it, and then with the 3 dots, you can download it. You can listen to it directly, but I find sometimes it stops while you're in the middle of the meditation because you haven't touched anything. Anyway, and then there's this book summary, there's a how to let go that I mentioned. There's resources, which is just, you don't have to worry about that for now, but you can look through it if you want, just like online guided meditations and things, and Mickey's talks. And then this session 1 handout. And so this handout, this is basically the home practice for this week. So let me just make it a little bigger here. So you can download this if you want, or you can just look at it on Google Docs. So I'll send you this link in an email anyway, but here's the email to the folder and what's in the folder. Then just to meditate, either 15 or 24 minutes. I suggest doing it every day if you can, or at least most days. And then this is the big thing, is in daily life. So practice being aware that you're the one who notices. So just, various times through the day, just say to yourself, I'm the one who notices, and be aware of what you notice. And try and do this 10 times a day. So it's just a few seconds here and there. You might want to choose situations that happen regularly, like every time you go up or downstairs, every time you go to the bathroom, when you wake up, every time you get on your computer or your phone. Anyway, so this is this practice of just noticing who notices. And then, if anyone has any questions, please jump in. Working with the small stuff. So this is very important. So just choosing 1 or 2 things from your list, or if you want to, if you think of new things, great. And setting a strong intention to notice when these things come up. And when they come up, remember the purpose of this moment is to learn to let go. And then practice, relax, release, lean back. And again, there's this how to let go document in there that goes over how to practice, relax, release, lean back. And we've talked about it a lot tonight. And it's going to, it's probably going to be awkward, and, we're just experimenting here. Think of it as a game, right? We're playing this game. We'll see how it goes. And then the other thing is just noticing the voice in your head while you're taking a shower. And then reading the next 3 chapters 5 to 7. And the optional stuff you can do or not.
And the voice in your head, the roommate is the judge in your head, but the observer is the awareness. The awareness is
your roommate. It's the same thing. It's just the unintentional thoughts. The thoughts that just pop up.
Oh.
Yeah.
With meditation, if I have a very specific practice that's walking and sitting together with. So is it fine to just do my practice, or?
It's up to you. I mean, in the meditations that I like, the meditation for the week, like it kind of incorporates the relax, release, lean back into it. You know, this noticing resistance and relaxing and letting go of the thoughts and noticing who notices. So it's up to you.
Okay, and there's two, there are two that are guided meditations.
Yeah, it's really the
that you're
same
referring to.
meditation. One has more space in it. One has more silence in it. So
Right.
one's a 15-minute, one's a 24-minute. Yeah. But the guidance is identical. Just the editing is different.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's really it. It's 9 o'clock, so I don't want to keep people over. But if anyone wants to stay, if you have any questions that you want to ask, I'm happy to stay. And if you have any questions during the week, feel free to email me. In terms of consult, you know, I will be doing these one-on-one consultations. So I'll be in a few days, I'll send a link to, I guess, half of you to set something up for the following week. So we're sort of a group 1 and a group 2. So anyway, the email will explain, but the idea is that there'll be 2 of these consultations. So half of you will be doing them between weeks 2 and 3 and 4 and 5. And the other half will be doing them between weeks 3 and 4 and 5 and 6. So, yeah, so thank you for coming. This has been a really rockin' class. lots of, I'm really happy that you're so, what's the word I'm looking for? Engaged. So that's wonderful. Well, have a wonderful week. And again, if you want to stay on, if you have any questions, please feel free to do that.
Okay,
Thanks so much,
you.
Lori.
Thank you. See you
Bye.
next week.
Bye.
Is
Bye, everybody.
Lori, is the voice in your head and the roommate the same thing?
Pardon is,
The voice in your head and the roommate the same thing?
yes.
Oh, same thing.
Lori, I'll have to miss class 3. So if that means that I have to be in the first chunk of people doing a second, I don't know what is better. Just wanted to let you know.
It doesn't matter. I'm recording the session, so you can still watch it online.
Okay.
And the practice continues, so it doesn't really.
Okay, good. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
And are you
Right.
recording just yourself? Just recording just yourself? Or
Pardon?
everybody? When you're recording the sessions, is just recording yourself or everybody?
It's recording everybody, but it's not shared with anybody. It's really just in case someone.
Thanks. Bye. Have a good night.
Bye.
Right. All right.
I'm gonna stop the recording actually.